Hello everyone and welcome to the final Tempo Strategy Wild Meta Snapshot breakdown for the Wailing Caverns mini set. The Forged in the Barrens and Wailing Caverns era has been defined by the emergence of earth-shaking archetypes and the flurry of balance changes to keep them in check. After the dust settled, a few long-term powerhouses still hold their place in the top tiers, but we've seen plenty of other archetypes flourish too, and aggro, control, and combo decks are all well represented. We've struck a fragile balance going into the upcoming expansion, and what United in Stormwind has in store for us is anyone's guess. There's still plenty of time to climb before the new set launches in the next couple of weeks, so let's take a closer look at the top decks to play in the final days of the meta. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the Tempo Strategy YouTube channel to be kept up to date with all of our latest Hearthstone meta reports. Starting at the top of Tier 1, our top pick at the end of Wailing Caverns should come as no surprise because it's been top tier for the entire expansion. That deck is Darkglare Warlock. Darkglare is a rare deck that has endured nerf after nerf and seen the development of counter after counter, and yet it remains at the top while many of the other best decks of the Forged era have been nerfed to oblivion. It's a testament to the raw power and flexibility of the Darkglare archetype. Whether it's a Swarm of Giants on turn 3, or a Tamsin Roam plus power overwhelming OTK out of nowhere in the later turns, or even another created by win condition, you can count on Darkglare Warlock to have the means to win any matchup that's not specifically tuned to beat it. Darkglare's power is evened out by the knowledge and skill required to play it well, but on the other side of the coin, we have Secret Mage, which is just as straightforward to play as it is oppressive. Secret Mage is the bane of Diamond 5 ladder, the gatekeeper to legend, and an oppressive force against combo decks and lower tier decks alike. The deck has a unique mix of aggressive pressure, disruptive secrets, and relentless card draw that make it one of the most frustrating decks to face in the game. Its disruptive power in particular has kept it at the forefront for the entire expansion, and we expect it to remain a mainstay going forward into United in Stormwind. Rounding out our Tier 1, we have Odd Paladin, which stands tall as the most relentless board-centric aggro deck in the game. Odd Paladin's token production and endless avalanche of buffs is more than most decks can handle, and with finishers like Quartermaster and Conviction, this deck can finish its opponents off very quickly. Pressing the button turn after turn might not be sexy, but it is consistently powerful, and its performance on ladder speaks for itself. Darkglare Warlock, Secret Mage, and Odd Paladin stand as the decks to beat, but they're not the only decks worth mentioning. Wild has a wide variety of viable decks in Tier 2 and beyond, so let's take a closer look at some other standout archetypes of the late Wailing Caverns meta. First off, Reno Priest stands at the top of Tier 2 after spending much of the Forged in the Barrens meta in a consistent Tier 1 spot. Reno Priest has power and flexibility with its Highlander Suite, Combo Disruption, and OTK combo, but in the late Wailing Caverns meta, it doesn't apply the kind of early pressure needed to keep pace with the other Tier 1 decks, so the deck has seen a bit of a decline. It's no longer a driving force in the meta, but it continues to be a strong option for climbing with an excellent matchup spread. Joining Reno Priest at the top of Tier 2, we have Kingsbane Rogue. Kingsbane has spent the entire expansion cycle in refinement, and going into United in Stormwind, Kingsbane builds have reached a point where the deck can finally return to its throne as King of the Face deck. Modern Kingsbane builds feature Blade Flurry as a defensive measure to complement the deck's normal range of fast damage and card draw, which gives the deck plenty of power to race against opposing aggro decks. Also in Tier 2, we have Mizaki Mage, which stands as the top combo deck of the meta, even if it has to compete with Celestial Alignment Druids for that title. Mizaki Mage has a critical mass of stall and draw, which makes it a nightmare for slower decks to face. While Mizaki continues to have a blind spot against aggro, it can hit a stride with freeze effects and ice block to buy it all the time it needs to assemble its combo and burn any opponent to the ground. Galakrond Shaman earns its spot in Tier 2 as the premier Shaman deck of the meta, boasting the power of Wailing Caverns era innovations like the Ice Fishing removal combo and Primal Dungeoneer. The Elemental package alongside Galakrond, the Tempest, and Shutterwalk gives the deck plenty of flexibility to tackle both the early game and the late game, which makes Galakrond Shaman a well-rounded threat. Rounding out our spotlight, we have Odd Demon Hunter, which has seen a resurgence thanks to new Death Rattle heavy builds. The Razorfen Beastmaster package gives the deck a new level of stability on the board that helps it compete against aggro decks and control decks alike. Of course, Odd Demon Hunter still has plenty of power to close out games with burst damage too, even if Stilt Stepper is taking a backseat for now. Wrapping up, the Forged in the Barrens and Wailing Caverns expansion cycle closes with a relatively varied and balanced wild meta, even if it feels like some of these top decks have held the spotlight for a bit too long. We're eager to see if United in Stormwind has any shakeups in store, but in the meantime, check out the full report for all of the details on the last days of the meta, and as always, thank you for watching.